Hello everyone, I'm Sakshi Sundrani, Faculty for Ethics at Vajiram and Ravi. In this podcast series, we are joined today by Alan Siby, who's gotten a rank 289 this year. So congratulations first of all, Alan, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, Alan, now as compared to many people, your journey wasn't as long uh, as compared to most UPSC aspirants. In your first attempt itself, you had your name in the reserve list, and then in this year, you've been able to get a good rank again, rank 289. So there was few things that you got right in the very first attempt.
Yes, ma'am.
Starting from prelims. Now, like you shared that you were working before you actually got into preparing for UPSC. So what was that like? What was the background academic journey that you've had, and how did you transition into UPSC full time?
Ma'am. So, ma'am, I did my graduation MBBS from Government Medical College, Chandigarh. So, towards the end of my MBBS, I had a fascination to join the civil service. There was something that really interested me. I felt that maybe as a civil servant, I would be able to do much more rather than as a doctor. And that's when I thought seriously about civil services. And by the time I started my internship, I was clear that I need to definitely try civil service. And I gave myself a time span. 2 years, I will definitely try. And in things go well, I will definitely go back and pursue my career in medicine. And fortunately, by God's grace, in both the 2 attempts, I could clear the exams. So it was during internship I made myself clear. But ma'am, during the internship of MBBS, it's a very hectic life.
Yes.
Because almost 12 hours you will be working. So it was difficult for me to prepare. So practically, I started my preparation after completing my internship in June 2023. Post that, I started working as a medical officer for almost 3 months. And then I understood that working with medical officer that I was working in a university, it was becoming difficult for me. So in October 2023, I resigned from that position, and then I started full-time preparation. Along with that, I was working part-time in an NGO.
Okay.
So, but I could dedicate a good number of time. But from October 2023, it was when I started my full-time preparation, and 2024 June was the prelims when it was supposed to be conducted. So I had almost 8 to 10 months time. So the first thing, as you rightly said, ma'am, I got things right because I was very clear that I did not be a master of things to appear in civil service.
Yes.
It's just an exam, and I just need to clear these 3 stages: prelims, mains, and interview. So for prelims, I was very clear. I just need to clear the cutoff. I analyzed the cutoffs for general category. It was about 85 to 90. So I thought that if I'm able to manage a score around 95 plus, I will be in the safe zone.
Right.
So my goal was just to get that 95 plus. So it might not seem correct for many of the aspirants. I ignored some subjects, I ignored some topics. For example, ma'am, let's take polity. I went through the analysis provided by institutes about the areas from which questions are coming. So, for example, Parliament is a topic from which almost 22 questions have come in the past 7 to 8 years. That means I cannot ignore the topic of Parliament. But there is a topic, non-constitutional bodies, from which randomly maybe 2 or 3 questions are coming. I totally skipped that chapter. So within that time span, I dedicated the time to the areas which can help me score more. And that really helped me in my prelims, ma'am.
Right. So again, yours is a perfect working professional's strategy, so to speak, because you had limited time, and so you have to also judiciously use that
Yes, ma'am.
resource of time to ensure what you want to put in your efforts in and what you want to ignore as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So like you said, one was doing some of the subjects well and ignoring some, or not giving as much effort or putting as much effort into the other subjects. What was some of the other fundamentals for prelims, if you could share? What did you focus on?
Ma'am. Ma'am, for prelims, when I say I ignored some subjects, I never totally ignored. I meticulously planned. I analyzed the PYQs of maybe 7 to 10 years, and it's then that I came to a conclusion that if there is one chapter that is giving a return me of one question in 10 years, I don't have the time, the luxury of time to give time to that chapter. It's only then I decided that I will, for the time being, keep this chapter away. Right. So I've never ignored any subject totally, but from subjects I did ignore.
So from those topics, you had picked your high impact topics.
Exactly, ma'am.
And in those subjects, you were focusing more on those,
yes,
rather than focusing on, giving equal attention to all the topics.
Definitely, ma'am.
Okay.
Second thing, ma'am, was that maybe this should be the first thing, that for prelims, I believe the Bible is the PYQs.
Right.
PYQs as well as the syllabus. More than the syllabus, I personally believe PYQs are more important. And if you can analyze the PYQs, you can understand that UPSC has been showing a general trend.
Yes.
That may not be totally repeatable, but there might be certain trends, certain areas UPSC generally focus on. And there are certain areas which you should also understand that, for example, ma'am, I personally believe that current affairs questions need not be given the higher weightage over statics. Statics should be stronger than current affairs, because even if I prepare current affairs to the maximum possible resources I can, from my first attempt and second attempt, I could understand that UPSC is very smart enough to bring in questions which none of us know.
Yes.
So because the second thing I did, PYQs analyzed well.
So static over current affairs.
Exactly, ma'am.
Yes.
So statics was something I did well. The third thing is, ma'am, I believe it is about giving good number of mock tests in prelims, because prelims is ultimately about performing on that day, and that 3 hours you have to do well. You may not know things well, but still you will have to do the things well on that day. For that, I believe, ma'am, practice helped me a lot, especially in my first attempt, ma'am. From April to until the exams, almost June, mid-June. Till that time, what I did meticulously was that every week I was giving about 6 to 7 mock tests.
Okay.
And I did a mock test of almost all the institutes. Vajiram and Ravi too, I did a lot of the mock tests. And what helped me in that was that I was putting myself into the pressure. So in some days I used to give 2 to 3 mock tests. Okay. So that even if I am mentally drained out, I should be able to come to a logical reasoning and come to an answer. So this was the third thing I did. Fourth thing was that, ma'am, I made myself clear that if I do not know an answer to a question, no one sitting in the exam hall knows that answer. So that really helped me in my first attempt. And to be very frank, when I was giving my first attempt, ma'am, in the first round, when you solve the questions which you are 100% sure, there were hardly 15 to 20 questions which I was 100% sure. And you know, ma'am, with 20 questions right, I can never make it to the prelims, to the main stage. And then you have to start going for logical elimination, maybe eliminate one option, maybe go for your gut feeling, or maybe it's like you have to logically analyze, okay, I have read this topic well. If this topic was in news, I would have read it. Yes. So this topic may not be from this country, it can be from another country. And going by that logic, I was able to solve almost 91 questions, and I got a decent score in my first attempt, 112. This attempt too, I could score 100 plus.
Brilliant.
So it was more about, ma'am, I believe, about having that mindset.
Right.
That, you know, not be a topper, but you just have to clear that exam.
Right. So again, that mindset is very important, and you had it very early on.
Yes, ma'am.
Like that confidence was in you. After studying for 8 months, you knew that, okay, whatever was important, I've done that much, and whatever comes beyond that will not be known to anybody. So having that confidence in the very first attempt is very, very extraordinary, first of all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now coming back to that number of tests and how you use tests to analyze your performance.
Yes, ma'am.
Let us talk a little bit into that as well. So
Yes,
did you
ma'am.
have a number of tests that you would want to give per se, or were you just giving tests to analyze your own performance?
Ma'am, I didn't set a goal that these many number of tests I should be giving, but I was very clear that at least from April, mid of April to June, every Sunday when the exam timing is there,
Yes.
at that point of time, I should not be in a comfort zone, I should be giving a test. So my body should be physically and mentally be prepared for the actual challenge on the D-day when I will be sitting. There should not be anything abnormal for me. Yes. It should be normal process for me. For example, ma'am, even if I go out to drink some water, that is taking out some valuable time from my preparation. So for my attempt of the questions. So I made myself very clear that I am giving this much hours every day. Second thing was that, ma'am, exams, mock tests help you in the sense many people feel that in mock tests random questions come and you are not able to solve it. But I took it as a challenge, because in actual exams also there would be at least 70 questions which you don't know. Yes. So if I can somehow come to a logical conclusion through these mock tests, and I never targeted for a 90 plus score in mock tests. In fact, in most of the mock tests, my score was around 50s, 60s or 70s. Okay. But still I told myself that the purpose of this mock test is to find my safe zone, the number of questions I should be attempting, or I also analyze from this mock test that whenever I am attempting match the following questions, I am making a mistake. So on the day of the exam also, if there was a question I had to choose between a match the following and another question, I left the match the following, because there is a higher chance of me making a mistake in the match the following. But there will be another candidate who is very strong in match the following. He should be doing that match the following question. So such analysis can be done only through mock test, because PYQs are definitely important. But the issue is that I do 2022's paper today. Tomorrow I know the answers to the PYQ. Yes. So there is that bias in me. I am not allowing my thinking process to function. So I believe PYQs are definitely the topmost priority, but next mock tests are also important.
Okay. Another thing with mock tests is that, like you said, you yourself weren't scoring great in those mock tests. The scores were hovering between 50 and 70. Now, many a times, what we see among aspirants is that when they start scoring low scores in mock tests, they take it to their heart that okay, I'm probably not reading and not
Yes,
studying
ma'am.
well, which is why I'm scoring so low. So that it prelims, I feel it largely becomes a mindset issue. You fail the exam before you actually sit for the actual exam. So what do you have to say to that?
I would greatly agree with this point, ma'am. In fact, after giving my first mock test, even I had this thought that maybe I should not be giving the 24 attempt because my score was something around 55. And I believe that after preparing for 8 months, if it's just 55, I felt that I should not be giving. But later on, I analyzed that I did watch good number of YouTube interviews given by previous toppers, and many of them were also telling on the day of exam they too only knew 30 questions or 25 questions. And I told myself, if AIR 1 is only able to solve 20 or 30 questions, a first attempter I can take the leverage of being
Definitely.
15 so questions is good enough. So I told myself I need not be demotivated,
Yes.
but just try to improve. If today I am scoring 55, tomorrow I am scoring 30, I should be worried. But I should just try to make that 55, 60 in the tomorrow's test. Day after I should try to score 62. Just try to improve on the where you started from the first day. That was my attitude, ma'am. And generally, maybe the thing is that I had the experience of clearing NEET UG, and that is also an MCQ based exam.
Yes.
So even in that exam, there are many questions which you actually do not know. So I was trained to have faced the pressures, and working as a doctor also really helped me. Many a times you get challenges which
Definitely.
you do not know, but somehow you have to tell yourself that you have done the right process, and you have to have some faith also that you will be getting through it, ma'am.
I think, Alan, in your case, what has worked the best is your mindset more than anything else.
Yes, ma'am.
Because sometimes you cannot see the next step, but you
Yes,
have
ma'am.
to just take it and have faith in yourself and God that you will be able to make it. For
Exactly, ma'am.
you, it has been that without knowing the next step, like you said, coming to your mains journey as well. Like you said, that most of the things you were doing on the go, like during mains, you prepared your ethics, during mains, you picked up your sociology paper 2.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what was that like, and how did you deal with the pressure and anxiety that comes with mains, and also perform so well in the actual exam?
Okay, ma'am. So I'll compare my both the attempts here, ma'am. Before that, just one add-on regarding my prelims of this year.
Please.
That would be a good motivation to a good number of
Sure.
students. So since I went till interview in the first attempt, and my interview was on April 4th, results were declared on April 22nd.
Yes.
So being a first attempter, you are not properly informed about everything. So I too had the mindset that interview में तो fail नहीं हो सकते. So I was expecting my name, and my name was not there in the initial list. And so I didn't prepare for the next attempt. So practically speaking, April 22nd results came. For the next 5 to 7 days, I was a bit depressed. And then I had just 1 month's time to appear in this year's prelims, ma'am. So I had two options. Practically speaking, many of my friends advised me not to appear because I haven't prepared at all. They have seen me. But then there was something, few of my friends told me that sometimes it need not be the best attempt that best prepared attempts give you the best result. So again, I took a chance. For the next 1 month, whatever I could, I prepared. So I told myself I just have 1 month with me, and I prepared in that 1 month extensively with PYQs because this year I didn't have the leverage of time. In 1 month, I had to complete all the prelims syllabus. So I completed in 1 month's time with PYQs the entire thing, and I gave 2 mock tests, online mock tests, in which initially I scored 70. I told myself, okay, it's fine. You are getting 70. Last year only had 50. You are in a better sport today.
Brilliant.
I never told myself that last year you had 100 in UPSC, you are gone down to 70.
Yes.
And then I went on and wrote the exams, and when I checked with the key, I was getting around 100 marks, 110 marks.
Wow.
So just 2 marks less than what I scored last year. So again, I believe, ma'am, it's about the mindset and the positivity. You just have to go there. On the day of exam, no one sits with you.
Definitely.
And this year too, in my first round when I was solving, there were only 25 questions which I was 100% sure. The rest I was sure, okay, last year bhi ho gaya tha. This year too, I will manage somehow. And coming to the second part, ma'am, you asked about my mains preparation.
Yes.
So this is something that I didn't prepare well for the mains because I was not informed about that mains should also be started at simultaneously when you prepare for the prelims. So that did backfire for me because ethics, as you said, ma'am, I didn't prepare. Optional subject paper 2, I didn't prepare at all. So when the date of results of prelims were announced, I was not ready with the two major subjects, ethics paper and optional paper 2. But I was not ready to give up. Whatever little time I had, I joined the ethics crash course here at Vajiram and Ravi, and that 15 days period or 30 days period, I completed the entire syllabus. And I knew myself that this will be a limitation for me. I cannot aim for a 140 with that 15 days preparation. So I have to be realistic. So I prepared my other GS subjects well. Optional paper 1 I had done well, and I had prepared those well. Paper 2 also somehow I managed. Then I gave a lot of mock tests, ma'am, for mains, because coming from a science background, writing a humanities answer was a difficult thing for me. In fact, if I recall my first answer which I wrote today, if I read that, that might not even look like an answer.
And when was this? When was this first answer written?
Ma'am, a week after the prelims results were declared.
So between prelims and mains, you were writing your
First answer.
something that again it is wrong or it is bad for everyone.
It's totally wrong, and today I will say that this is not a role model for anyone, but this was my situation. I'm telling that even with that you can manage. So if you're starting on early, it's definitely an advantage.
Definitely.
But I was not ready to give up at any of the stage of the preparation. So I started, and I had faith in God also. Maybe that also helped me on in different ways. And so I started giving tests. So every Saturday I fixed for answer writing. So Saturdays I should sit for 3 hours. Whichever subject I was preparing, I used to write a full length test. That also I got analyzed through an online institute. And then by the time of 3 months, every Saturday I was writing for 3 hours. And towards the end, I increased the frequency. I gave 2 sets of full length test so that I can challenge my body to the level that by the third day when you are writing the ethics paper, you are totally drained out. But I already had prior experience of 2 such full length tests before the exam. So on the day there was nothing new for me.
Right.
The questions were definitely new, but the situation through which I am going was not new. I knew that I will be drained on the day of ethics, but I have to manage. That mindset really helped me, ma'am, for my mains preparation. And on the day of mains examination also, ma'am, I would like to make a note of my sociology paper.
Sure.
Because that is something that would be a motivation for a many number of students, ma'am. In sociology paper, ma'am, paper 1 when I appeared for the exam, somehow by God's grace, I had only, out of the 19 questions, 17 were the questions which I had prepared a day before. Somehow randomly, things worked out. So I wrote the answers really well, I was very confident. When I came for paper 2, ma'am, out of the 19 questions that I was writing, I hardly knew answers for 2 or 3 questions. And I totally broke down during that paper. When I received the question paper itself, I was totally shattered. How am I going to read? Because these are the areas I have read topics just before it and just after that.
Yes.
But since I had little time for paper 2 preparation, I had left these areas. I knew the analytical part, but the specific thinkers for sociology, which many people say you have to write thinkers, I was not able to recall a single thinker for those 16 questions. Okay. But then again, maybe my positive mindset or maybe the prayers which I did helped me. I'm just not ready to give up again. So whatever I knew, I had good grasp of the understanding of the subject. With the understanding of the subject, I made my own answers. I wrote the answers from the sociological understanding which might be very little understanding because I have only prepared for 3 months. And when the marks were declared, ma'am, for the paper 1 which I believed I have just done tremendously well, I got 114. And paper 2, which I knew that it was going out of my hand, I had 144, which was all India second highest. 145 was the highest score, 145 was the second highest. So I just mean to say this to aspirants out there that even on the day of the exam, things might not get decided. Till the last moment, you need to have that positive mindset. If you give up, I could have given up at the very moment when I received the question paper because those were the questions for which I never knew a direct thinker related to it. But I knew that this question has to be written from a functionalist perspective, maybe from a Marxian perspective. So the little knowledge I had made use of it in multiple spaces.
We talk of equanimity in ethics, and I see it being manifested the best in you when you are not too driven by the highs and the lows, and you're in a sense of calm all throughout. So I think that is something that explains your journey the best.
Yes, ma'am. And this year for the mains, ma'am, definitely I was better prepared because I had one first-hand experience of giving the mains. I had the mark sheet. I could analyze where are the things which I am doing good, what are the things I am going wrong. So somehow I felt that in my optional subject, there's a limitation to which I cannot improve. So now I cannot change the optional also. I have to be with that optional. So what I did was that with that, I focused more on my GS subjects also and my optional subject also. And somehow this year I increased the number of tests I was giving, and I also started making short notes. Last year I didn't have the time. This year, since answer writing was better done, I could focus more on note making. And somehow this note making and collection of value addition points, this did help a lot. Maybe collecting points from some magazines which can be used as examples, or collecting facts which can be used in introductions, or learning a quote which can be used, or maybe putting some frameworks which can be used in some standard forms of answer. For example, ma'am, GS3, the term might change, but the analytical part remains the same. So if we can have a standard framework, I can make use of it. I may not be able to score 7.5, but for an unknown question which no one is able to write an answer, a 5.5 is well enough. It's about scoring that 5.5 average in all the questions, I believe, which matters a lot.
Yeah, so you don't have to hit it out of the park in
Exactly,
all the
ma'am.
questions. You can just, score average.
Singles are also good.
Singles are also good sometimes. Yes. So again, coming back to mains itself, Alan.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, again, I understand that you did not have the time to wholeheartedly prepare for an entire year for mains. But what would you want to suggest to students, say, after prelims? Students who have an entire year to themselves to prepare for mains, what would be your month-wise strategy to score the best in mains?
Okay, ma'am.
Because ultimately mains is the real competition. Like you said yourself, that you knew that 95 was the score that I wanted to get in prelims. I did not want to score the highest there.
Yes,
Mains
ma'am.
was my target. So what was your strategy and what would you like to suggest for mains?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, for the first category who would be having just 3 months, if you have done your preparation well and good, it's very well done. If you don't have time, then this is the model that I did. Dedicate your time, plan accordingly in the 3 months, give a good number of mock tests, because for mains, ma'am, I believe there is nothing that can balance out your answer writing, actual answer writing. Yes. No matter how hard you study, it's about writing that 150 words in 7 minutes and a 250 word answer in 11 minutes. So the moment you see a question, it should come naturally to you, the ability to write. And that can come only with practice. And in my both the attempts, ma'am, I didn't miss a single question. I attempted all the questions. And that could be done only because I was practicing. So I believe I never wrote an extraordinary answer. I only wrote average answers in all the questions. And that average answers gave me a decent rank. For those people who might be missing out on their prelims and who have that 1 year, ma'am, I believe they should focus more on the mains, ma'am. And they should consider themselves attempting for this year's mains. So they should just think that they have got a bonus attempt next year, and they should prepare the same way as if they were appearing for this year's mains, and that will really help them in their next attempt, because by the time of September they would have covered the entire prelim mains. Definitely. They would have written a good number of answers. Next year's it would be just value addition which can be done. So I believe that, ma'am, for the 3 months, if they can, they should join some mains answer writing program itself and just get prepared with mains. After that, just analyze which are the areas they are lagging behind. And for some topics like economics, ma'am, you need to keep updating your notes. Yes. The notes which I prepared last year meant nothing this year, because things keep changing every day in economics and all. Yes. GS3 especially. So such areas they should work on. Keep reading newspapers and write answers. Just don't stop writing answers, because in my personal experience, maybe it's because I'm coming from a science background. For a humanities student, answer writing would be coming naturally to him. So just keep writing answers. Also, don't take essay lightly. Yes. So at least if you have the time, of 1 year with you, it would be better that at least once in 2 weeks, if you write one essay, yes, and within the time span. And one mistake that many aspirants do, which I have seen my friends also doing, is that everyone can write an extraordinary answer in 10 minutes. Yes. The thing is, you have to do it in 7 minutes. So do it in the time span that is given. So after 7 minutes, take your pen out. Don't go and writing and finishing and get that answer evaluated. Because your evaluator will also feel that you have already written an extraordinary answer. Right. What to improve. But you took 15 minutes to write that answer. Yes. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to be time driven also, that in 7 minutes, whatever is run, I will write. Maybe the first 2 to 3 days, you will be writing half of the answer. But in a month's time, you will be writing very good answers.
Yes. Like you yourself wrote your first answer between prelims and mains. And
yes,
the problem, I think, with this exam is that, you do not have a reality check until that one exam of UPSC comes and shows you a reality.
Yes, ma'am.
So, as against that, what you have to do is give yourself those truth bombs and those reality checks every once in a while.
Yes, ma'am.
So sitting for that mains test, even if you're writing, bad, wrong, filthy answers, yes, in the first go, you have to still continue with the process to see the beautiful answers that you see. And when we see some toppers' copies, we feel that, okay, this person has written brilliantly well. But it has come after a lot of, like you said yourself, many wrong attempts, many just acting in faith
Yes, ma'am.
and hoping that you will get to write that beautiful answer one day. So I think it is more a journey of faith and a fighter spirit like you yourself are showing throughout. I think it is more a mindset game by what I can collect from you, is that it's more a game of mindset and how well you can manage in the times when you do not know how to go forwards.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
taking a step, little one at a time, goes a long way.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
So coming to ethics, again were a part of the ethics program at
Yes, ma'am.
Vajiram and Ravi. How did you go about ethics? Now again, you had a very limited time in your first attempt. But if I were to ask you in the second attempt where you had more time to yourself and you had your answer writing sorted, what did you do to ensure that you are able to prepare well for ethics?
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, one thing I faced was that, as I said, in my first attempt, I had ignored the ethics paper. So, I had to prepare it within that given very short time span. So, in my first attempt, my focus was on just preparing the content.
Yes.
I couldn't focus much on answer writing. This year, I wrote more answers and I started value addition. For example, everyone can write an example of Mahatma Gandhi. So, just imagine it from the point of view of an examiner. It's 10 Mahatma Gandhis coming in life. But if there is one person who has written something that is coming from a real life, maybe yesterday's newspaper,
Yes.
that will definitely fetch him half a mark, and he deserves that half mark for the effort for he has put in. So this year what I did was that I went through toposcopy, and maybe ma'am, I had this mindset that I had very good clarity that if I didn't get selected in the first list that year, it's not because UPSC is unfair, it's because I didn't deserve to be in the initial list. There is something that the rest of the students have done which I haven't done. So for 2 or 3 weeks, I tried to analyze what is that they did better than me. I went through toposcopy. One toposcopy is of Nandana GP, who is also a good friend of mine. She too did from Vajiram ethics courses. So once I went through Nandana's answers, I understood that yes, there is an X factor in her answers. If I am getting 5 marks in a paper and she is getting 7, there is something.
Yes.
Maybe the presentation she was doing. So I started improving my presentation. Maybe flow charts, which I was ignoring in my first attempt, I started inculcating. So from toposcopy, you can get a good number of ideas how you can improve the answers and work on it. And then definitely, there is no other alternative to writing answers again and again, ma'am.
Okay, so you picked a lot from toppers copies, not only as a source of value addition, but I think toppers copies also are a good source of what is the trend.
Yes, ma'am.
And how is the trend of mains evolving. Say for example, if you're writing the same answers 3 years back, you would be scoring great marks in that answer. But if you write that answer now, since many people say like the number of points that you need to write increase and the quality of value addition that you have to give has increased, because everyone can give, like you said yourself, the Mahatma Gandhi, the Ashok Khemka sir ka example that is there in the books.
Yes, ma'am.
But if you want to really impress an examiner, you have to showcase your personality, showcase that you've really worked for this exam and you're not coming out of nowhere. So again, that value addition, say for example, whatever is happening in the recent 1, 2, 3 months closer to mains, if you give those examples, like I remember there was this Pune Porsche case, or
Exactly, ma'am.
so you can mention about that, whatever is happening in the realm of climate change at the global level, any initiatives. So for example, 2 years back there was Mission Life that had come. So if you mention those things, the examiner knows that you're applying whatever you're learning in the theory aspect of ethics.
Exactly, ma'am. And when I'm saying this, I would also admit that even I haven't evolved to that stage that my answers are perfect in ethics. I was able to do it very well in my GS paper, but ethics, I believe, is a tricky game. It's
It
a different,
also,
and ethics is a game changer also. The marks of ethics can determine your rank a lot. So even I have not reached that stage where I have perfected my answer, ma'am, and I'm maybe I have definitely improved with what I have written in last year, but this is an ongoing process. I believe the fellow listeners who are listening to me, they might be able to do better than me in ethics, ma'am.
Again, it's a ever going process, I believe. With ethics, every answer that you write, you can recall, okay, I could have put this theory as well in my answer, I could have put a better example in my answer. So again, the more you put in efforts into a subject, especially like ethics and essay,
Yes, ma'am.
the better you get at it. So
Yes,
that is there. But I'm glad that you won't be sitting for that process again. But yes, now coming to your interview scores have been brilliant in both the attempts, and I believe it shows in your personality by now, because you've had that fighter spirit and you had that calm mindset, that equanimity within yourself, that is required of an civil servant who is dealing with, unforeseen circumstances every once in a while. So, what do you think? What are the fundamentals that one has to focus on while preparing for the interview stage, and some non-negotiables if you could share with the viewers?
Yes, ma'am. And I believe, ma'am, for interview stage, I will be able to guide my aspirants better here. So in both the attempts, I had good scores. In my first attempt, I had 193, and this attempt, I had 202. And there were things that did really worked out, and those were not the things which came randomly, which I did prepare well, and I had planned accordingly, ma'am. The first thing is that be yourself in the interview board. So the people who are sitting there are the people who have experience more than your age. So there would be people who have retired as chief secretaries who are UPSC members. They have experience of 33 to 35 years, and you are a 25-year-old or 26-year-old aspirant sitting in front of him. So never have that feeling that I can bluff the board or I can present a false personality in front of the board. And I believe in both the attempts, it was my frankness that was rewarded in front of the board. For example, ma'am, while preparing the DAF, it is the first step that you do in the interview preparation. The DAF should be as neat and clean as possible, and I use the word neat and clean because there should not be anything that you add which you have not been doing. In my case, ma'am, I never had any achievement in sports or NCC, and my both the attempts, these two columns where the sports/NCC was blank, and the board never went to ask me,
and it is
why
very
did you keep?
enticing to, like that everyone says that you should put something in sports because it reflects an edge to your personality.
Yes, ma'am.
And people are, just convinced into doing it.
Many of them advised me that I should not leave it blank, I should be putting it somewhere. But then there was maybe my integrity didn't allow me to do something which I was not doing. And if had I been doing it, maybe I would have been caught in the interview also, because they would have asked me something, and if it's something which I have never done, I would not be able to go into the depths of it. So that is something I just did put the things which I have actually done. And second thing is that always understand that many people list out n number of achievements in their DAF, especially in the entry 7. And you should also understand it from the point of the interviewer that if you put 10 achievements, he has to find out, he has just 20 to 30 minutes to analyze you. So think about an aspirant who has just clearly pointed out 2 good achievements and you listing out 10 achievements. The chances of those 2 achievements being in coming into his sight is higher than finding out the good from those list of 10. So I just kept minimum achievements which were actually things which I had done. Thirdly, with regards to hobby, ma'am, I had a hobby of reading Ayurvedic books. Now you can keep any hobby which you haven't been doing, but reading Ayurvedic books is something which I had been doing throughout. So that inquisition really was appreciated by the UPSC board also. For example, in my first attempt, B.B. Swain sir was the chairperson and was the chairman, and my entire interview went in this direction, why an MBBS doctor was reading an Ayurvedic book. And I would like to say it here that the mock interview that I gave at Vajiram and Ravi, headed by Farooqi sir had asked me almost 2 to 3 questions, and the same questions came in the actual interview, and those were also the same from the Ayurvedic part. So if you prepare your DAF really well, you can do good. Okay. The second thing is that if there are questions which you do not know in the actual interview, accept it in the board. Do not try to bluff the board. For example, in this attempt, and my board was headed by Suchata Chaturvedi ma'am, there were at least 5 questions which was from my graduation subject MBBS, for which in line I had to answer, I don't know. Because those were the factual questions coming from second and third year subjects, which I couldn't revise because my optional subject was also sociology. So I admitted it in the board that, sorry sir, I am not able to recall the answer. Sorry sir, I am not able to recall it. So that was also rewarded. The board could have penalized me, but that is not being reflected in my marks. 202 is a good score. Had they penalized me for 5 wrong and 5 I don't know, so I would not be getting it. So maybe always understand it's a personality test and it's not a test of your knowledge. It's about how you present, because UPSC needs candidates with integrity who can show their actual face in front of the board. The third thing is that, ma'am, to have that confidence on the day of the interview. Here that example of 5 I don't know in a line helped me, because I had the conviction within me that even if I say I don't know for 5 or 6 questions in a line, there would be a 7th or 8th question waiting for me which I can hit out of the boundary. So I was 100% sure that there will be that one question waiting for me somewhere or the other. And that came from the work experience which I had. And that was something which I actually did at the ground level. So definitely I could answer well, and the board was also happy. So this is something which I would like to tell the aspirants, and be ready for bouncers on the day of interview. My first interview was entirely based on the DAF, and my second interview was totally out of DAF. So it can go anywhere. It's about maintaining your composure in front of the board. And I believe what the board analyzed in this attempt was my ability to stay calm, even after saying, rather than my good answers, maybe I would have said average answers only, but they knew that I could control my nerves, even after saying 5 to 6 I don't know in a row. The seventh answer I could answer really well,
Yes.
and then I could go on with it, ma'am. That is also being rewarded.
So the mindset and showcasing your true self without, mincing words, I think that is something that really is appreciated in the interview. Okay, now before closing this podcast, I would really want you to uh, share what kind of mindset. See, again, this process is not as short for everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
There are people who miss the final list by a few marks every year, and I believe everyone who makes it to the interview, gets an interview call, is as capable
Yes, ma'am.
as people in the list. But again, it's a game of mindset to pick yourself again and sit for this examination again. What would you want to share, and what would you want to say to those aspirants who are in this journey for us for some time now as motivation, and how to pick themselves up, and what should be the mindset that they should carry throughout this exam?
Yes, ma'am. And I can very well understand the emotions that would be going through those aspirants, because when on April 22nd last year the result was declared, I was also not there in the list, and I too believe that I would be also making it to the list. So I can very well understand the emotions that are going through your mind, especially for an aspirant who would have given multiple attempts and has reached the interview stage. At that point, ma'am, I believe it is about, you can cry for few days, and you have the right to cry, because you have been rejected at the last stage of one of the toughest exam in the country. So you are not a bad candidate, you are a good candidate. It's just that maybe it's just a luck factor on that D-Day didn't favor you. So just try to come back to that table again, your study table again. Maybe you can take a week's time also to recoup yourself. But after that, it's always about starting early, and it's never too late, I believe personally. It's never too late, because in my case also, from a general conservative aspirant's angle, I was late from the first day itself. But it's never too late. You can start even at the later stages. And there are people who would be genuinely supporting you. In my case, I was fortunate to have my parents supporting me. So on the day of the results, when I could not make it was my parents. I had a mindset, maybe I won't appear again. But my parents supported me. My friends supported me. My family members, my teachers, all of them supported me. In fact, I remember Ajay sir calling me from Vajiram and Ravi sir said, I really expected you. It's okay, but we will crack it this time. So these people do matter a lot. The people around you, you can talk to the people who are around you, and ultimately understand that if you are doing the right process, you will be rewarded. And I have faith in that if you do the right process, if you are doing everything in the right manner, if not today, maybe tomorrow or maybe day after, the reward will be waiting for you. That can be in any form. So just have hope in yourself whenever you face such issues. I would also like this opportunity to thank one of my friend, because ma'am, after completing, when I was in my internship, I started preparing for NEET PG examination, because MBBS was a tough journey for me. I was only an average scorer in MBBS. So I had the mindset that maybe I will not be able to crack. If I am not just able to get average score in MBBS, how come UPSC? And was because of that friend who motivated, because she knew me from my school days, and she used to tell me, you had this aspiration from your school days, you should not give up. And that motivated me to prepare for this exam. And today I am indebted to that person, because if she had not motivated me, maybe I would not have even attempted my first attempt. And from that day till the date of the results, in both the attempts, that person was with me, and many other friends and my family members. So in my case, I believe I was fortunate enough to be in a circle, and I was just placed in the center of the circle where people were doing things for me. Maybe they were praying for me, they were motivating me. So any person placed in that circle would have achieved better result than me. So it's about staying that humble and just have faith in yourself. Ultimately, things will work out in your favor, if not today, as in my case. Again, one thing of positive attitude. I had missed the initial list by 8 marks in 2024. Yes. And when I contacted many of the fellow aspirants as well as institutes, they said that the reserve list will go only till 7 marks. So either I can get very depressed, I am missing it by just 1 mark, or I can just say, okay, that is a historical trend, but history can change for me. And it did happen. I was the last person to get in, and the reserve list went in exactly till 8 marks this year. It didn't go till 9, it didn't go till 7. So maybe if you actually believe, the universe will conspire to get things done for you. So that's it, my dear friends. Just stay focused and trust yourself in this entire process. Even if no one is believing in you, believe in yourself that you are doing the right thing, you will be rewarded. That's all, ma'am.
Alan, this has been such a masterclass. I think I have my new examples on positive attitude,
Ma'am,
what the right kind of emotional intelligence can do, and how it can work wonders. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing your journey
thank you so
with
much,
all
ma'am.
the
The pleasure
aspirants.
is
Thank you
mine.
so much.
Thank you, ma'am.